Hello, dear viewers. This is Brody Gunderman here in the PM second year class of radio and TV. I'm joined with my 7 co-stars here. We have Dylan Coverdale,
Hi.
Ethan Keck,
What up?
Jacqueline Mitchell,
Hello.
Ezra Stonebreaker,
How do you do?
Sophia Shannon,
Good afternoon.
and Mallory Hayden.
Hello.
I hope you guys are doing amazing. And, well, I'm going to ask you just real quick, what's your most memorable moment from either the AM class or last year or this year's class? We're going to start over here with Ezra Stonebreaker.
My most memorable part of at least the PM class has been doing the point segments. I have personally really enjoyed those. On top of that, I also really enjoyed my a contest that we entered into. I like doing the audio design for that. I love that.
I would probably say going to the Colts Media Center. I know you guys weren't a part of that field trip last year, but I met Reggie Wayne. It was very cool.
Signing our names on the board and hiding it behind a green screen. That was like an amazing thing to do because people will find
That's a secret. All right.
Well, probably when an unnamed student decided to hide underneath a desk when we were watching a movie.
and then he got yelled at.
I think one of my favorite experiences would have been doing the Christmas parade for the past 2 years. I had the opportunity to co-MC that with both Mallory and James the past few years, and then receive honorable mentions at the IASB contest.
Yes, that was super fun. I've loved all of our field trips and things we've gotten to do as a class, but I think one of my favorites was when we were at Fusion 54 and I got to run up to the AWL in Crawfordsville, Indiana, and shoot some photos of adoptable cats and dogs, and I really got to go spend time with them, so that was always pretty fun for me.
You know, that was actually one of my favorite segments when we did streaming over there at Fusion. Personally, my favorite moment was this year when we went to Turkey Run and we ran around, we got shots. It was really fun. I got to hang out with some good friends and make some amazing memories.
What do you think is a specific project that has pushed you to grow the most through the past 2 years in this class?
The audio design project that we did for the contest, or that I did for the contest, that made me really find what I want to do in my life, and it has made me want to strive to be better.
Definitely for me has been my Capstone program, or not my Capstone, we're in our Capstone year, but my internship program this year. I have gotten to work alongside some fellow students at Lebanon High School, and just with Joe Page at City Hall, we've been able to go around town and really get to work with businesses and how to be professional out in the real world.
Me personally, I would say definitely the point. I was the chosen director for that project, and I got some good leadership experience there.
I would probably say my Capstone program with West Central CTE. I found a love for running social media and working with that particular medium. Dylan?
So for me, it would have been the killer tie. One of the first projects we did this year is because I had really bad stage fright when it came to getting on camera. So I really had to persevere through the fact that I got scared when going on camera, and it turned out really well. And I think that's made me a better fluent speaker.
Honestly, I used to have trouble with just like talking in general, but I think I still kind of do sometimes. But I think just really getting on up there has really helped me just like improve speaking, at least public speaking in general. And I think that's really going to help me in the future.
Yeah, and going off about both what Jacqueline and Mallory said with their Capstone internships, that's been something that's been really valuable to me and pushed me to grow outside of my comfort zone, working with various industry professionals at my Capstone workplace, and then being able to hear work I've done be showcased on the radio throughout Indiana and in our area.
Yeah, we've definitely had such a great experience here in the WBTV program, getting to meet all these amazing people, and it's really growing our connection. So as we are all furthering out into college and the next steps, we'll have all these connections back home that we can reach out to.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm interned over there at the Crawfordsville Chamber of Commerce, not to be confused with the Western Boone Chamber of Commerce, and The girls over there, Stacy, they've helped me connect with a lot of the small businesses they have. Nearly 400 businesses under their belt.
So, well, I was interning at the Boone County Chamber of Commerce, and we did a podcast with them, and it was really fantastic because we got to meet a bunch of people who were successful, that weren't necessarily, they didn't all go to college. Some of them did, but for me personally, just hearing the success of people who just worked their butts off and strive to like make it, and they did, you can tell they did, was just truly amazing to me.
Wow. So, I have a question for all of us while we ring up our first guests real quick. Just tell me, would you take this class again if you magically turned back into your junior self?
Yes, I would. Anytime. Just pre-change anyways. before
It's
any of the
ringing
changes
right
next
now,
year.
so.
Okay, we're going.
Okay.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Nathaniel. It's Jacqueline
Hi.
with WBTV.
Hi, Jacqueline. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? We have some people wanting to interview you.
Okay, cool.
So, Nathaniel, hi, I'm Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
So my main question for you would be, back when we went to state, how was it getting to be the main play-by-play and get to have that experience?
Dude, it was so cool. We got really lucky that the team was that good. Like, you talk about starting this sports broadcasting and maybe 8 different people would have been listening, right? If it was just some, maybe if we were Lebanon or whatever, if we didn't have a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the team was that good and we had that many eyeballs, I mean, some of the games we broadcast, we were getting, upwards of 8,000 people watching, which for a tiny 2A school is incredible. So, for us to be able to kind of start the program in that regard and then go watch a team that good and then get to go experience with all that, sure, it was plenty of fun just being in the WeBo press box and being, in the Crawfordsville press box, et cetera. But getting to go call the game from the NFL stadium, from Lucas Oil Stadium, was something that I definitely will never forget, and we got to do it a couple years in a row, which is incredible. It was so cool.
Alrighty, this is Brody right here with Dylan. I have a question for you now. So, what is it like working at Radio 1?
It's pretty cool. It's a great opportunity to start in the industry. I have an entry-level job. I produce sportscasts, so it's I get to still talk sports every day. I get to do kind of what I want to do coming out of college while I have the flexibility to work on my play-by-play, so I'm able to call plenty of games on the side. So it's a really nice, so many people when they call, when they have play-by-play jobs, they're working in an office or, they're working in a cubicle just to pay the bills, and then they go get to do play-by-play on the side. Well, being able to do sports broadcasting as the main job and the side job is kind of the dream. So this has been a lot of fun, and I'm really happy that I get to work here in Indy. So I get to live close. I still get to come up and see the family, in Thorntown all the time, and still get to work, in Indy sports and cover all these teams that we grew up watching.
Okay, this is Ethan here with Dylan and Brody. I wanted to ask, how was your experience in college?
It was awesome. When I looked to where I wanted to go to college, when I was still at WeBo trying to figure out where to go next, nothing against Ball State, but Ball State is kind of the standard for sports broadcasting in the state, and that's what everyone. All right, let's go to Ball State. Let's go to Ball State. Well, you go to Ball State and you don't get to do anything on air for a couple of years. Maybe if you're lucky, your junior year, if not your senior year, which is fine. And there are plenty of great broadcasters that have come out of Ball State, so I'm not trying to slight them at all. But walking onto UIndy and seeing that they have all of the same opportunities, but with a fraction of the people trying to fill the spots. So I knew from day one I was going to be able to be on air, and I was lucky enough that from freshman year on I was the voice of the men's basketball team, which was that's certainly something that you don't get at some of the bigger institutions. So the fact that I was able to from day one have the play-by-play opportunities, but also these are high quality stuff. It's one thing if we're a couple of grandpas with camcorders in the backyard trying to record these games. This is good stuff for the tape. We've got great people there running camera, directing, really good people at UIndy. And the fact that from day one I was able to get so many opportunities, it helped me grow exponentially, because as good as I thought I was back in high school, I was a crap broadcaster. And as good as I thought I was in college, I was a crap And you know what? I have a long way to go right now, but being able to get all those reps from day one was huge, because studying it is one thing, but actually being able to go out there and get the experience on the microphone, calling the games, that is invaluable. And at UIndy, same with WeBo. From day one, I was able to get, 50 games a year, if not more. It was incredible.
Yeah, so it's very valuable, the information you've been able to learn both at Western Boone and in Indy. But aside from that and working with Radio 1 and then doing play-by-play for Western Boone, what is your journey, or what do you do in terms of sports broadcasting?
So work for it's all freelance for me right now, which is, there's a couple ways to skin the cat, but Radio 1 is just part-time for me, so I'm not, I don't get the benefits and the insurance. It's basically freelance there, and then I work for a handful of different play-by-play outlets in Indy and around central Indiana as, in freelance capacity. So I am right now calling all of the games for Roncalli High School, and that's all freelance, but I'm getting a ton of work there. Indiana SRN is a production company in town that I'm calling a lot of games with on the side there as well, and actually running a lot of production behind the scenes stuff, since I learned so much of that with Foxworthy at WeBo. And then a couple of different radio stations around town. There's one in Terre Haute that I work for here and there. So it's basically just, how can I look at my once empty schedule and fill it with as many games as possible? And I'm sure Foxworthy will hear this and roll his eyes, because I did the same thing back when I was in high school with him, and he said, "You want to do how many games?" But that's kind of my goal right now. It's just, it's like I said, with the amount of reps you get is how you're going to get that exponential growth. So right now I'm just trying to figure out what can I do during the day to pay the bills and keep the mortgage payment up at Radio 1, and luckily still get to work in sports broadcasting. And then how can I fill those evenings with games? And it's probably been about 3 to 4, sometimes 5 games a week for the last couple of years. It's been a lot of fun, and that's kind of the process that I look at. And for me, it's all freelance, but it's all very rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Ezra. Obviously you're very proud of your work, and I mean I would be too if I had achieved all that you have achieved so far. But my question for you is, what do you think would be your most important or most influential work that you have done?
Oh, that's a good question. The fact that what we were able to do at WeBo is pretty cool. To go from being just a class that produces newscasts and scary movies with ties and whatnot, and comedy shows, then to go and really transition to a lot of live sports. And I mean, when I was there, we did every football and boys basketball and most of the women's basketball games there as well, and then some spring. So the fact that we were able to kind of get that program off the ground, Colin Kincaid and I and a handful of other great students that were there at the time as well, I think that was pretty cool. So now hopefully you guys in your class can start, taking advantage of that and go call some games and broadcast some games and get that experience and kind of pass that along as we go.
Yeah. As you said, you were there at the beginning of WBTV Sports. How do you think the program has grown over the years or changed since you started?
Well, I mean, it started from nothing, and our first couple of games was just internet audio, where Colin's mom would listen, and if I were lucky, maybe my grandma would tune in. And then as we went, we kind of realized, hey, this YouTube thing is, worldwide. This might work. So we switched over to YouTube, and then we realized, well, wait a minute, we could just throw up a camera or two. Let's get some more experience for more students, and why don't we see what we can create? So just start from nothing, and then now, with the television-like broadcasts, I mean, there's plenty of people that say what you guys are doing at WBTV Sports is as good as what you see in college, not just with the announcers, but with the production, with the quality of cameras and camera work and everything that goes into that puts plenty of gray hair on Mr. Foxworthy's head. It's been pretty cool to see the way that you guys have grown it, the way that it's grown, and you just hope that in the future more and more students want to get involved and it can continue to grow and blossom.
So I remember when I was a young little lad, I would sit around the TV and watch, the football games, of course. So, like watching you, you really sound like there was a love for, just sports in general. So, I guess my question would be, who or what do you think influenced you in life to develop a love for play-by-play?
Well, the whole reason I wanted to get into the industry was because, when I was a little lad, I was a little sports nerd. And, I'd get off the bus reciting how many touchdowns Andrew Luck threw in 2014 and all that, all that nerdy stuff that I lived for. And I read through all the Sports Illustrated magazines growing up, and it was just, I was a big, and I still am, just a huge sports nut. So the passion part kind of came easy. So let me figure out how I can get paid to do this as a career. So that part came easy. Now what comes easy is just how exciting it is to watch these games. It doesn't matter if we're talking professional sports, if we're talking college sports, or even at the high school level. Just seeing good sporting events really fires me up. So you can hear it with basically every call that I have. Maybe I get a little too excited at times. If there's such thing as that, because I'm passionate for it. I love it, and I think it comes through in my calls that you can hear. And I think it's important for broadcasters. You can see the smile on my face when you're listening to me call a game, and it comes naturally.
So I've already asked you about working at Radio 1, but let's take it back. How was it when you were first entering the industry?
I'd consider myself still kind of first entering the industry because, it's a never-ending climb up the ladder. I was lucky enough that at UND they have like a pipeline that comes through Radio 1 because Scott Eaker, who Matt knows well, Mr. Fox, I'm sure he's talked to you guys plenty about as well, kind of started, he started everything that we do radio-wise at UND, and he really built all the studios and kind of started what they do here at Radio 1 with a decent chunk of the stations. So there was already a national connection there, and Scott would always kind of encourage, after a couple of years of learning, he always had the theory that you don't want to send freshmen out into the real world. He didn't want us to start working at the radio station or doing internships with TV stations as freshmen. You want to kind of polish these people in college a little bit. So after my sophomore year, heading into junior year, is when he was like, all right, let's see what we can get for Nathaniel. So the connection to Radio 1 was simple and easy, and I've kind of fit in like a glove since then. So it's been 3 or 4 years since I started here. So it really, as far as like starting in the part-time world, was decently simple. Now my next step is, how do I turn this play-by-play thing into a full-time gig, whether it's with a minor league baseball franchise or some college, Division I college sports. That's kind of the next step. But as far as where I'm at now, all I did was make sure not to say no, say yes to any opportunity, and that's kind of how I've filled up my schedule the way I have so far.
Okay, and to finally wrap us up here, what is the biggest piece of advice you wish to pass down to younger generations that someone gave you?
I think it's a little bit about what I just said. Learn how to not say no. I can think of plenty of people that, maybe was offered a good opportunity and thought, no, I got to work at my other job that night. I can't do it. No, I've got plans to go out with my friends that night, etc. If you can learn how to not say no when you get asked to do these opportunities, when you get presented with these things, find a way to make it work. But, call off on your other job if possible. Tell your friends we can, hang out the next night. Find a way to make as much possible happen. And it's going to be a grind, and it absolutely is. Like I said, there are weeks where I'm calling 5 or 6 games at times, but I'm in that position because I, maybe to a fault, cannot say no when it comes to sports broadcasting. So I think that's how you're going to position yourself best for getting the bulk amount of reps that you want and just meeting people. Because the more you do, the more people you meet, the more connections you make. I'm sure, the last thing you guys want me to talk about is networking, because I know Mr. Foxworthy talks about that on the daily. So learn how to not say no, and that's going to set you up for success.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nathaniel, for taking our call and talking with us for the time you have. We really appreciate it. I'm sure Foxworthy does too. He always talks about you. But with that, we're going to have to let you go. It's been a blast talking to you from all of us.
Well, you guys, You guys keep it up. I'll come meet you in person soon.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. All right.
He was a lovely person to talk to.
You know, I never talked to him before because, you know, he's just a guy. But, you know, Foxworthy always talked him up, and I'm glad we finally got to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with what he said, that networking is everything, and being able to make sure that you're making those connections to get you far in the industry, whether you're going into sports or just any part of communications.
And knowing that, like, while it is going to be a competitive field, to stand out, you have to really show your passion for what you're interested in, and no matter the cost that comes with, like, he might not be, he said he's growing in his career, but it doesn't matter. It's how you choose to fill that schedule and get the experience you need, because practice makes perfect.
And speaking of passion, up next we have Emmy Award winner Michael Behrens.
Yes, Emmy Award winning Michael Behrens.
Yeah, so aside from being an Emmy Award winner, Michael Behrens is a meteorologist at WBNS TV in Columbus, Ohio, and he also is a Ball State graduate.
Okay.
In addition to that, he is a Regional Murrow Award winner and a drill pilot for WBNS, where he works.
Alrighty, we're getting
The
him on
number
air
you
right
are
now.
calling is temporarily unavailable. Please try later.
Oh, hold on. I think we put the wrong number, and we'll get that back on. But snapping back to that question I had right before we called Nathaniel, would you take the class again? We already got some input from Ethan, and let's get it from Dylan right before we call.
Honestly, yeah, I would think so. I mean, it was really an enjoyable experience, especially first semester.
Alrighty, we got him on.
I also think I would take this class again. I think it was a very good experience for me, and then just being able to learn everything that comes with this.
Yeah, it definitely shaped. I went into this kind
Hello.
of.
Hello.
Hi.
Give me
Hey.
just 1 second here.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. So as we had previously mentioned, this is Michael Behrens. He's a 2-time Emmy Award winner and a meteorologist for WBNS TV 10 in Columbus, Ohio.
We had the privilege of meeting him a couple months ago, and he really just fed us some of his knowledge.
Yeah, and I mean, him coming back, you could really just tell how much he loved the program and how he reminisced about, you know, how he used to be weather here, and, you know, would point at certain things and tell us that's new, and this classroom looks really great, and, you know, you could just see the joy that it brought to be back in the studio.
Yeah, so Michael, whenever you're ready, do you want to go ahead and tell us what you do, aside from what I've already mentioned, and what got you to where you are?
You said what's new and what got me to where I am?
What you do for work, and then what
Oh,
got
what
you
I
to where
do.
you are.
Yeah, so kind of interesting day to day. Little busy with some day of news stories. So I'm actually a meteorologist for WBNS 10 TV in Columbus, Ohio. But depending on the day, I can end up doing a lot of different things. Like today, I'm covering an event and flying a drone. I actually just landed the drone here as you were calling me this afternoon. So a little bit of everything that I do. So I guess we'll just start with today so far. I've been working with AI and some graphics programs to design a virtual studio for us to do more vertical and social media videos on. I produced our streaming weather show that we have in the afternoons. So did a little bit of like classic news producing, stacking our show, selecting our stories, a lot of writing, video editing to go with that, and the graphics that go into that show. And then now out doing the drone, and later we'll do weather stuff and forecast the weather and a little bit of everything in a day. If it was more of a normal day, so to speak, just a full weather day, that's a little bit more, I guess, classic to what you'd expect, where you come into the building, you build your forecast, you look at all the weather data. I think a lot of people don't realize that the meteorologist on TV is in charge of that forecast. They're not just taking it from somewhere else and reading it. No one's writing a script for them. They're not reading that themselves. They're creating that in real time, day of, and then ad-libbing that to the folks at home. But of course, we're in charge of all the graphics and
the content and the pacing of those weather presentations and putting that all together and presenting it to the folks at home. So in a little bit of long-winded way, that's kind of just the shotgun scatter of all the things that I might end up doing in a day. As far as what got me there, I mean, it started where you guys are right now. It started in high school and Mr. Foxworthy's radio TV class, doing student newscast and video productions and getting involved with shooting and editing and coming up with stories and writing and all that sort of stuff that you guys are doing now is where I got started. And from there went to Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, and continued to pursue that. The experience that I had gotten from Mr. Foxworthy's class, I was able to join the team as a freshman. At the time, we didn't have YouTube. I mean, YouTube was around, but we weren't on YouTube. So there was only a few spots, and they were all TV spots. And I was able to join that team as a freshman, and everyone else was seniors. And from there, through college and into the industry.
Well, it's definitely sounded like you've had a successful journey. My name is Mallory, and so you definitely seem like you wear a lot of hats at WNS TV 10, and I just would like to know, what is your favorite part about the job, and what has been the hardest part?
You know, my favorite part of the job is kind of just what I've been talking about today. There's so many different things you can get involved with. I mean, this is not really an industry where, at least not anymore, where you can just depend on one skill set and that's the only hat you wear. And more so now than ever, you have to be willing to learn things and willing to do different things throughout the day. So from, again, writing, shooting, editing, producing, doing the weather, all those sort of things, it means every day is different from the past day. It means you're doing the same types of things, you're doing it in a different way. You're always writing about a new event or filming a new event or talking about a different weather pattern. So all that sort of plays into what makes this a really enjoyable job. As far as the hardest thing, it's really hard to say. I mean, I think probably it's the hours. 'Cause I mean, the news is 24/7, the weather's 24/7. If you've got severe weather on a Friday night, say goodbye to your Friday night plans. You're not you're not going to do that. You're in the studio covering the storms.
We did a bit of research about you, and we know that it's important to you to make complicated weather understandable to people. How do you do that?
You know, I think one of the best ways to do that is just be conversational about it. Talk about the weather like you would talk about the weather with your friends. We don't talk in these really scientific terms and be like, oh, we've got a upper level low pressure at the cold front pushing through at 500 mil, all that sort of technological jargon. You don't really talk about weather that way when we're talking to friends. We're talking like, hey, it's going to get really cold tomorrow. I mean, we're dropping like 20 degrees. It's going to be awful outside. I got to grab the jacket. And you want to talk about it in that sort of conversational, understandable way. Because at the end of the day, the audience at home doesn't really care why the weather is happening, at least not most of them. They want to know what's going to happen, and they want to know how it's going to impact them. And you can sprinkle in some of the why. But if you're focusing too much on the scientific side of weather, you're not really providing a product that the audience is going to find all that useful. Because again, at the end of the day, they just want to know what's going to happen and how it's going to impact them.
Hello, my name is Ezra, and I heard you mention AI earlier and hot button issue, but I would like to know your opinion on what the limitations of AI should or shouldn't be in broadcasting.
It's an interesting question when you consider AI in broadcasting, because obviously the Pandora's box, so to speak, has already been opened. It's in the industry. It's being used on a daily basis. But the question is for how far that goes. I don't think anyone has a solid answer yet. I'll tell you how I use AI right now. I use it mostly as an assistant to a project I'm working on. So say if I need a creative way to look at a story, I might ask it to, here's my pitch for the day, what are some ways you would approach this story? Say I need some tiny graphics or smaller graphical elements. Say I want to make a new weather icon, or I want to make a background for a weather graphic. Instead of having to send that request out to our graphics tank, which is in Denver, and then wait for them to take 4 hours to 3 or 4 days to send me back a background, I can just ask AI, hey, make me a stormy weather background I can use in a weather graphic, and I can get that done in seconds versus days. Another way we'll use AI all the time is in transcription, because it used to be I go out and shoot a 20-minute interview. Now I have to go back through and type out everything that was said in that 20-minute interview, and I have to listen to it again. Now we can just feed that into AI, and AI gives us back, not always perfect, but very close to perfect transcription of that interview. And that really speeds things up. In terms of another use, we'll use it for sometimes, we'll use it for web copy. Be like, hey, here's my script from a story, turn this into web copy. Or if it's a sort of low value story that comes out of a press release, here's the press release, turn this into web copy. And it's really good at those things. But the one thing you have to always be careful with AI is it will be confidently wrong in its answers. So you have to double check that. You have to fact check it, because it doesn't matter that you used AI for it. At the end of the day, you're the one responsible for the content that it generated and whether or not that content is accurate. There is one more way AI is being used, and that is more towards the scientific side of weather as well. AI weather models are becoming fast the standard of the industry, and they've got some really good promise. Their pattern recognition skills are very good for weather patterns, and we're seeing increased forecast accuracy thanks to some of those AI models.
Yeah, so you talked about using AI in weather and then in news as a whole. What sparked your interest in meteorology and weather when you were a child?
You know, I think what sparked my interest in meteorology as a child was the fact that I was scared of storms as a kid. So I was always the first one, you know, back in the house when thunderstorms were coming through and the skies were starting to darken. I wanted to, you know, get away from that and get into a safe shelter. But part of that was turning on my TV and seeing if there was any severe weather coverage, or seeing what the meteorologists were talking about and watching them speak about storms, and starting to gain an understanding and appreciation for the weather through that. And then as I started to get older and, you know, was getting online, I was looking up weather data on the internet as soon as I could. And from there, that sort of interest just kept going, and to the point that I was about 10th grade, I had to make the selection for the next year whether or not I wanted to do radio TV or if I wanted to do a computer coding class, and picked radio TV and just kind of stuck from there.
It sounds like you're very passionate about weather. And who or what has motivated you to push to this point in your career?
Yeah, I don't know that I can really say there was a who in terms of, I guess, the motivation, other than just, you know, the experience that I've had from through my career up until now. But as far as more kind of like a what motivates me, it's just wanting to pursue this career as far as I can, as to the maximum level that I can, because, you know, it's more than just a career. It's what I'm truly interested in. So it's become kind of I want to say a hobby, but an area of interest in my life that even if I wasn't working where I'm working now, would be something I would be doing. If I was just working an average job, I would still be trying to involve weather in some way or media in some way. It's sort of a whole holistic kind of interest of mine. It really makes working very enjoyable, because every day it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like something I am enjoying doing, and something I would be doing regardless of whether or not I was getting paid to do it.
So it definitely sounds like you've made a lot of accomplishments so far in your career, and yet there's still so much to so much life to live and so many places to go. Is there a dream that you're still chasing?
I think so. I mean, where I'm at right now, like you said, I've done a lot in my career, but I don't think I've taken it as far as it can go. And as far as what that answer ultimately is, I'm not sure. I just want to see how much I can accomplish, how far I can go with it, and maybe one day I'll look at it and go, this is where I want to spend the rest of my career. But I don't think I've hit that point yet. And whether that ultimately is a single market, maybe a national platform, maybe a future digital platform that we don't even know exists yet, I'm honestly not sure. But I just kind of on the ride and see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. In your experience in the field so far, how important it is to get that hands-on experience? Like you said, you started kind of this journey in a classroom, and then you went off into college where you did really well and you exceeded there, and then going into the workforce. How important it is to get that experience and stand out in a media world that's becoming more competitive?
That experience is absolutely crucial, and the program that you guys have at Western Boone is already putting you leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of people that you'll meet if you continue with this career path into college. And once you get past that collegiate level, the experience is really all you have. Because, I mean, degrees and certifications and programs and other things that you can put on your resume, they look good, but at the end of the day, it matters what can you do. And having the practical experience and a good portfolio, a good resume reel, is going to take you a lot farther than having a resume that is filled with a lot of text.
Yeah, and once again, this is Michael Behrens, and we thank you so much for your time and your advice and just sharing your story with us. And we're appreciative of all you had to inform us on.
Yeah, not a problem. Happy to take some time here to talk with you guys this afternoon and hopefully answer some of your questions.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, that was our second and last interview from prior students. How did you guys like Michael Barr?
Baron?
Oh, he was
Barron,
lovely.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was shortening the last
Oh,
name.
man.
Honestly, he was a really good speaker, and he did have some pretty good introspections on AI.
I
Yeah,
agree.
so this is one of our last projects wrapping up the end of the school year. So all of us are off to different things after next week. So do you want to go through and talk about what you're going to do after high school?
Yeah, let's
Oh,
start
yeah.
with Ezra.
Well, I want to be an audio designer. I want to do sound design for things like video games and television and movies and basically any media that you might do. And I don't know if you know this or not, but a lot of what you see in those types of media, none of that sound is recorded on the spot. It's all added later on, and that's what I want to do.
Well, I plan to study sports communications at Franklin College. I hope to work in Formula One, eventually, especially in the social media side of things.
Well, unfortunately, my occupation, hopeful occupation, doesn't have anything to do with broadcasting. I want to be an electrician, but I'm happy and glad that I took this class and got to meet all these amazing people around me.
Yeah, so this is Dylan. I'm gonna pursue an apprenticeship to become an electrician with Gaylor Electrical, and on the social media side of things, I want to be a content creator one day and make content that people can, enjoy. Maybe centered around bodybuilding and bowling, but I could see myself being a jack of all trades when it comes to social media.
Ethan Keck here, and I wanted to say that I'm currently planning on pursuing communications, likely somewhere in the radio and TV area, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to make something out of it, and I'll be able to get a nice job from it and just climb the ranks.
My name is Sophia Shannon, and I'm planning on heading out to Oklahoma State University to study agricultural communications and animal science.
My name is Mallory Hayden. I am planning on going to IU Bloomington this coming fall, where I will study media marketing and communications. And like Jacqueline, I have a love for motorsports and would hope to one day work in either IndyCar or Formula One in like media. And so I think this is us wrapping it up for the actual final time, as after this, like, I think one more week and we're out of school and we're all going to be pursuing these plans in real time. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we thank our guests for joining us today.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.